We covered this story about a couple months ago when they were thinking, oh, maybe about last year. I can't remember exactly when we covered it, but we did cover the story. And it was this whole idea of a condominium in New York City. And as part of, the new rules in New York about affordable housing, most condo, and this happens in the District of Columbia, happens in a lot of major cities. When you build large, luxury condos or any type of building, you have to set aside a number, a percentage, and every city is different, a set aside for low-income housing. Right? These are cities where there's housing shortages or the market has priced people out of the market, so you provide a place for low-income renters to live. But this is where it gets interesting, right? So Extell, which is the building in New York we talked about a couple months ago, it's a 33-story complex, luxury complex, and it will also, as part of the deal with the city, it will build 55 affordable housing units, And they had to do that in order for them to get more floors, this, that, and the third. And the low-income units, which are available to people making 60% of the mean income or less, will also be part of the segment. But here, it's part of the segment of the community there. But herein lies the problem. What they've basically done, and they've been approved to do, is to create two separate doors. So you have one door for the rich people who live in the building, another door for the low-income people who live in the building, which is wild to me. Now, the ideal of having set-asides is perfectly cool. But the idea that you're segregating one group from another is where the problem lies for me. And to make matters worse, the affordable condos or the affordable homes will be facing the street, and the people who live in the luxurious homes will all be facing the river. So basically, this apartment complex, they made a deal, like the ideal of this is to create a multicultural isn't the right word, a multi-income unit building, right? It's to mix the populations, right? To create cultural diversity, right? Like that's why New York has this law. If you want to build a 100-floor building, you've got to provide a number of homes for those who are low income. And what this company has basically done, or what the folks at the Extell building has done, is they created a two-class society where poor people enter through the back and rich people enter through the front. Now, does this sound familiar to you? Yeah, it does. The civil rights, Jim Crow laws. Black people sit at the back of the bus. Black people don't sit at the lunch counter. There's a black water fountain. There's a black bathroom. There's a white bathroom. There's a white water fountain. White people sit in the front of the bus. It's the same thing. And this is one of those things where I think sometimes in life, I think in the social justice movement, we like to slice and dice and silo the movement into different respective parts and pieces, right? And this is an example of why we can't do that. Because there is a war against African Americans, there is a war against women, but there's also a war against the poor. And all those wars are universal. Why? Because the enemy is the same. The enemy is the same. And yet listen, 30, 40, 50 years ago, they were dressed up in white hoods and they were burning crosses. Today, some of those individuals are dressed up in suits and they're passing legislation. Let's be very real about that. And this is why, and they're running corporations, and this is why things like this happen. So the war that we're fighting, America, is a real war. And we have the same enemy, no matter what your subset or your grouping is, or whatever your issue of choice is, whatever your silo might be. We've got to break down the walls of the silos that exist in the movement. And the Extell building is a great example of that. They've created a two-class system. Right? They basically manipulated the city's laws to create a two-class system where they benefit and they make money, and they can basically demoralize another group of people. It's downright sad. It should be disgusting. Residents of New York should be disgusted by this. Just putting that out there.